How's it going, losers? Today I thought I would share with you the single worst day I've ever had in the gym that was that bad it resulted in me leaving home and not speaking to my dad for 2 weeks. And there was a massive lesson that I learnt from it, and hopefully you can learn something from it too. So I'm going to take you back to when I was 18, which was 9 years ago now, which saying that out loud makes me feel a lot older than I actually thought I was. And I'm doing judo and training full time at this point, and I'm training pretty much every day. I was still doing my strength and conditioning work with my dad as I had done since I was 14. One of my training days used to always be a Sunday. I used to go in the gym first thing on a Sunday morning. I used to love lifting heavy. And at that point I think I was lifting twice a week, but my Sunday would always still be my main one. Now obviously when you're doing a sport and training full time, you are away a lot of weekends at training camps and competitions. So sometimes that Sunday session would be disrupted and I'd maybe have to go in the gym on a Monday or a Saturday or whatever. In this particular instance, there was a British squad training on, which is basically national team training where you're down at a training camp for 3 days and it's really intense, 2 or 3 sessions a day of hard sparring, and you always come away feeling pretty knackered. Now I always used to make it a point when I'd go away to these squad training weekends that I would always make sure I trained on the Monday, because I knew that the whole rest of the country had Monday off, so I wanted to make sure that I was training when nobody else was, and most of the time that training was in the form of doing my Sunday weight session on the Monday. Now sometimes after these weekends I would go in the gym on the Monday and I would still be fairly strong. Sometimes I would go in the gym on the Monday and I would be a little bit weaker because obviously I was pretty fatigued, and I would just have to do a sort of lighter sessions to keep me ticking over. And it's something that I've told you guys, which was taught to me by my dad, who was my coach, that you just train how you feel. Don't make any decisions until you're actually in the gym and start lifting the weights, because sometimes there is no real rhyme or reason as to how you're going to perform. And just because you feel tired doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be weak. Like sometimes, for example, you can feel a bit crap, go in the gym and end up being strong, and then vice versa as well. Sometimes you can feel absolutely brilliant outside of the gym, you come in the gym and you're just not strong that day. So that was always the protocol we followed, but on this particular day, because I was getting a little bit older, a wee bit chirpier, and just thought I knew better than I actually did, rather than just following that same thing we always done with training how we feel, I had decided I was going in the gym that day and I couldn't be strong. I was just going to be weak if I tried to lift heavy. I've had a back and forward with my dad, and he's saying just see how you are, and I'm saying no, I'm going to be weak, and I said I want to train light, and he said well, if the strength's there then we need to go and take the strength. And I said I can't be strong because I've just done all this training, and we go back and forward, and the compromise was basically made, and I can still remember the numbers I was doing to this day. At the time I had been stuck at, or semi-sort of stuck at 4 reps 130 kilo front squats, and I could never get that fifth. The compromise we made was just go up and just do a single at 130 kilos, and then that'll set you up. You've still been under a bit of poundage, and that'll set you up for the following Sunday. And I can still actually remember the feeling of doing all my warm-up sets. I've done my 5 at 125 as normal before it. I get under 130. I do the first rep, and without a shadow of a doubt, it was the best first rep I'd ever done at 130 kilos. It felt so easy, so smooth, and it went up, and then I just went and put the bar back. I remember leaving the gym that day, my dad says, right, that was good. He says, you better make sure you kick on and you get that 5 at 130 on Sunday. And I'm all on my high horse, and I'm saying, no, trust me, we've made the right decision today. I'm definitely going to come back on Sunday. I'm going to be even stronger, and it's going to get smashed. So Sunday rolls around, and I'm in the zone, and I'm ready to go and get this 5 at 130 front squats. I'm finally going to put it to bed. Start warming up. Warm-up sets are feeling a little bit heavier than they probably should. Start working up the weights, and I get to my 5 at 125, and I can remember that I was properly fighting for the final rep at 125. And obviously if you're planning going up to 130 and getting 5, that 125 shouldn't really be massively challenging. So the cogs are already starting to turn in my head, and I'm thinking, I've maybe fucked this. I'm gonna have to really pull something special at my arse here. So I take my rest, psych myself up, get under the bar, set in my position, going to be strong, squat down, and I absolutely bomb out. The bar does not budge from the bottom. Drop the bar forward on the safety bars. That big horrible smashing noise when it hits the safety bar hits, and it's echoing out through the gym, and I'm just like, oh, I've absolutely made an arse of this. I stay leaning over the bar, and I'm now like, what am I going to turn round to? Just couldn't fathom. Standing around and facing my dad, and eventually when I do, I turn round and I can still just visualise the look that he's giving me. He's just looking at me, nodding my head in shame. go around and start unloading the bar. About 20 seconds went by and he still never said anything, which was making me feel even worse. Unfortunately, anybody who knows my dad knows that he is absolutely incapable of keeping his mouth closed for any sort of length of time. He's not very good at nuance, he's not very good at subtlety. He's very much, I'm saying every single thing that's on my mind and I'm not just going to let the action speak for itself. And after about that 20 seconds, he then starts to unload and he says, after all that faff you made on Monday about not being strong and you're going to be strong today and look what happens. All the time I'm just saying, I know, but he keeps going and he keeps going and he keeps going, and this literally went on for 5 minutes and I'm just the whole time saying I know, because I knew I'd made an arse of it. And I wasn't just like saying I know to shut him up, I genuinely did know, and I knew the mistake that I had made, and we had this way of training that had worked for so long and it got so much success, and then just out the blue I thought, oh, I'll just change it. I had this big plan in my head, I thought I knew better and I didn't. This verbal tirade has went on for about the next 5 minutes, and it got to the point where I just could not just listen to it anymore, and I just stormed out the gym. As it so happened, we took 2 separate cars to the gym that day, so I had my car there, so I jumped in my car, drove back to my dad's, packed up a bag of clothes and then drove through to my mum's and didn't bother saying anything and didn't speak to him for the next 2 weeks. However, part of the reason why it lasted for 2 weeks without speaking is because I tried to go back to the house during the week when I was hoping that he had calmed down and I was a bit less pissed off at him for absolutely abusing me. But I tried to go back to the house and he changed the lock so I couldn't get in the house. And at that point I was just like, fuck this, and then I drove back to my mum's for another week and a half, and then eventually we started speaking again. So the lessons you can take away and learn from this is, number one, please do not make any assumptions about if you're going to be strong or weak until you're actually in the gym and you've started training. Yes, you can take the information that you've got and hypothesize and use probabilities, but don't make the absolute final decision until you're in and you're training, because you just don't know. And sometimes on paper there can be every single reason in the world about why you shouldn't be able to go in and be strong and have a good session, but you do. And that's just the way that it goes, and unfortunately I can't give you some sort of scientific detailed explanation for it. It just is. And secondly, make sure that if you do have a coach or you do work with someone who's guiding you with your training, make sure you listen to them, and don't think that after you get a little bit of success that you know it all and to start changing the winning formula that you've used to get you up to that point. I was kind of at the point where I was entitled to maybe have a little bit more say in my training, but in terms of having that final say and on this particular subject, that it was something that I had worked off of forever and I'd been successful doing it. Took a mad turn, and on this day that it's just not going to work. Again, make sure that when you're working with someone you fully trust them to do right by you, and if you're not working with someone who you fully trust to do right by you, then make sure you find a better coach, which brings you onto my coaching inquiry form, which is down in the description below. Now that I've got the BMF program up and running and nobody's died yet, I'm ready to get more one-to-one clients taken back on. So if you do want to get bigger, get stronger, get leaner, win at your sport, whatever you're training for, get that filled out. If you want to be the guy that wants to do your own thing, then you can download Shite, which is my self-honed intense training experience, which is my DIY coaching program, which is just going to lay everything out for you to go and be your own coach, so you don't have to worry about anybody else and not have to worry about walking out the house and not speaking to your dad for a few weeks. Link to my email list is below, link to my Instagram is below. I'll leave it at that. Have a good week and I will catch up with you soon.